Hang Seng is sitting with gains of 1.3%.
2 to 5,000 before the pandemic, an average of 3,400. They're sitting with 13,000 account, and it's not going down. It continues to be flattish.
Vesco is looking to sell 5.5% stake via block deal today.
I think markets are going to be pretty choppy. It's nice that we're starting to see the micro take over from the macro.
Gujarat government has cut taxes on CNG and PNG by 10% to 5%. The Nifty is now up 126 points. So big bang opening on the Lao Street.
We have been predicting pretty significant earnings growth for this quarter as well.
This is definitely a very good acquisition that we have had, and this is a great team, LimeRoad.
There has of course been a repo rate increases during this entire quarter, and we definitely expected loans to reprice faster than deposits and a margin expansion. So the margin expansion came in line with our expectations.
Currently, the benchmark indices are up close to about 1%.
TVS Motors hit a fresh high today. The stock, in fact, is the strongest auto stock. It's up 74% in 2022.
The company has a strong regulatory track record. It has completed a total of 280 regulatory inspections with 36 US FTA inspections which have gone off successfully.
Markets are looking very strong. We have Nifty sitting with gains of 180 points.
Well, that was the day so far. Hello and welcome to Closing Bell. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Reema and Nigel, of course, joining in from the newsroom floor as well. Guys, hi. In the last 2 or 3 minutes, the market has sold off 30 points. I mean, actually, the last 2-3 minutes is what I'm talking about. And it's sharp fall, actually. From at 228 or so, the market was at 17,483 and we're at 17,445 now. So that's a 40-point fall, which is coming through. It's volatile. It's been volatile, but we'll see how far this goes. In any case, just a quick couple of points. So the market's been generally strong, but has respected that 50-day moving average after taking it out earlier. That comes in at about 17,491 or so. We are under it right now, I mean, for what it's worth. The PSU bank space is doing very, very well. It's up 7.5% in the last 2 trading sessions now. It's the top performing index for the second straight session. Global markets remain on a pretty strong footing. There are reports from Financial Times which says that the Bank of England is basically going to postpone its quantitative tightening program. It perhaps is the first large developed G10 central bank to kind of throw in the towel and saying, well, we're not going to tighten because markets are looking fragile. Dollar index is flat to slightly lower. It's well behaved. And oil, which is the most important macro data point for India, remains that way as well. Will oil come under further pressure? There are reports which indicate that the US is planning another large reserve release, and that announcement may come later this week. If that happens and oil falls further, I mean, that only adds to the positivity here. It's an important channel through global macros impact India. Reema, hi.
Hi, and right now at least the Dow futures is currently up 350 points, but in the morning it was up close to about 450 points. And just on the topic of global markets, China has stopped releasing any economic data for the last couple of days, while that big meeting is currently underway with the top leadership. So on Friday, the trade data was due. They did not release it. Today, we had the GDP, very important, closely tracked. That was not announced. Property sales data was also not announced. No explanation provided and no new timeline was also provided. So that, to some extent, has unnerved a few investors. But Anuj is also here with us. Anuj, good to see you. What have you made of the price action that we've seen so far today?
I think on expected lines, Reema. Today is just one of those days when it almost played as per script. The Nifty open with the gap up in that profit-taking zone that we spoke about in the morning, 17,450 to 500. It actually did go above 17,500 for a bit, but really came off once again from there. So that's the bit of an algo trade which played out. I think it's the Bank Nifty which clearly stands out once again, because on the Bank Nifty, on an intraday basis, you still would have made some money even after the gap up, because it picked up another 0.5, 0.6% on the Bank Nifty. But they're very close to crucial levels. Prashant already mentioned that levels, the 50-day moving average. And 17,500 in the past was well-documented support when the market was falling. So on the way up, it's going to be a bit of an irritant for the market. And 40,500 on the Bank Nifty. Let me maintain these are just irritants now. And unless you see a complete collapse in the US market, it's a matter of when and not if these are taken out. And in fact, maybe the Bank Nifty even makes a move towards its all-time high. It's just about, I think within 1,500 points of doing that on the Bank Nifty. And going by the options data, it looks like that's possible. Also, this bit of nick that you've seen in the last 10-15 minutes could also be because it's the financial Nifty's weekly expiry on Tuesday. 18,000 is that level that you had the highest call open interest. So it's going to require some doing, and may not happen today, but may happen tomorrow. But the inherent strength of the market is clearly visible, especially on the bank Nifty.
All right, Anuj, thanks very much for that. So that's a quick setup in terms of how Anuj is seeing things. Nigel, what are you watching out for?
Well, just to run you through trade setup then, the Nifty is hovering around that 50 DMA, right? We went there earlier this morning, but we couldn't hold above that level. So that's going to be a crucial marker. The second factor I'm looking at is the Nifty Bank. Just take a look at the beautiful outperformance we continue to see on the Nifty Bank. That continues its winning ways. It's up more than 1% odd, while the Nifty is up close on 7 to around 0.8% odd. For me, the encouraging part today is the mid-cap index has made a comeback. Remember, yesterday we had the Nifty scoring a century, but the mid-cap index didn't participate. Today it appears it's pretty much keeping in step. So that's the broad cues that I'm looking at. The highs on the Nifty, that's important. That comes in at around 17,528 approximately. So that's going to be a bit of a resistance zone, while the start of the day was in fact the low. So that level is a bit of an entry opportunity. Now, in the last few minutes, we went back to those lows of the day, and we are seeing some bit of buying at that level. The Nifty Bank, that's clearly the one that's running away. From the all-time highs, the Nifty is still 6% away, but the Nifty Bank is only around 3.5% away. So the closer the Nifty Bank gets to its all-time high, well, that definitely give legs to the Nifty to get past that 18,000 odd mark. And in terms of option data, the 17,400 put, the 17,500 put, both of them, there is massive open interest built up on both those two strikes. While on the call side, you're getting some open interest built up at around the 17,500 odd call. So that's telling you some bit of resistance at around that 17,050 odd, because at the start of the day, it was closer around 40 points. On the bulls wish list today will be a closer to around the 17,500 odd mark. That's near the 50 DMA. Let's see whether or not we get there, but exciting 60 minutes coming up. Back to you guys.
Absolutely, and right now it feels like a Diwali party, right? We're up for the third day in a row for the benchmark indices and largely holding on to all its gains. Let's tell you what we've lined up for you on the show today on Closing Bell. Second day of gains for the Indian equities, with the Nifty nearing that 17,500 mark. Key indices outperformed broader markets, higher in trade. All sectors currently trade in the green. Innocent Bank, Ultratech all set to report their Q2 results tomorrow. We'll get you the highlights, the key expectations later on the show. We'll talk levels and stocks to watch with Jay Bala of CashTheChaos.com. And not just that, our alpha manager for the day, Sonam Udasi of Tata Asset Management, will join in to decode the market moves in the road ahead. It doesn't end here. We'll get you a slew of investment ideas this Samvat from Basant Maheshwari of BM Wealth Advisors. All this and lots more lined up in the final hour of trade.
Well, how should you position yourself in the last hour of trade? Then Mitesh is with us to tell us what you should be doing. Mitesh, hi. Good to have you with us here. I mean, how do you see the setup, and what would you advise viewers to trade?
Good afternoon, Prashant. I think overall bias remains positive. The overall chart pattern on the short-term basis, which is intraday and daily basis, I think the setup is quite positive, with the indicators now pointing upwards, volatility also expanding. This should typically mean that while there can be some pullback, which is what we are seeing right now after the opening hours high, I think overall the market is more likely to inch higher, and we should get past the 17,550, 580 zones and head towards 17,750, 800 levels. So I'm maintaining a long bias very clearly. On the stock side also, our recommendations as well as positions reflect a bullish bullish bias. I have a buy on Bharti right now that's reversing after a decline, and a buy here with a stop at about 773 is what I recommend, with a target of 800, while the other call is a buy on iShares, which opened with a gap up today and has continued to show strength. That's a buy with a stop just below about levels of 3550 for targets of 3700 to win.
Thank you, Mitesh, for that. Let's invite Gurmeet Chadha, Managing Partner and CIO of Complete Circles, with us on the show now. Thank you very much, Gurmeet, for joining in. Thoughts on Motherson Sumi? The stock is down 7.5%, promoters selling stake. Where does the stock head from here? Because there's already that overhang about things slowing down in Europe.
Riva, sorry, I didn't get the stock.
Motherson, Samvardhan Motherson.
Yeah. So, it's been a bit of a underperformer in this auto cycle, and any news related to this in an environment like this obviously is indeed, but could be a short-term event in my view. I think what we are looking at it is a good mobility upcycle, especially if you look at the vendors they serve domestic and globally. I think the demand outlook is strong. What we like more in this space, which I have discussed multiple times, remains Uno Minda. In fact, there's a healthy correction there as well, almost 5-7% gone in last 2 days. Great, very agnostic portfolio when it comes to both ICE and EV. They are doing very well in their bread and butter business, which is switches, horns, and lightings. And they are then getting into the premiumization with alloy wheels, car seats. Next year onwards, you will have possibly 6 airbags in the small car, where they have again 15% market share. And they also have an EV ready portfolio. Already their top line is now hovering around 2,800 crores a quarter, which probably will mean 11,000-12,000 crores of top line this year. And at 12% operating margin, I think the EBITDA should be 3-4 times in next 18 months. So that looks to me a better play, both in terms of kit value and content per car, as well as being EV ready.
Okay, all right, Gurmeet. Stay on. Tomorrow we'll be having Piramal Pharma. Piramal Enterprises had gone ex its pharma business, so tomorrow they'll be relisting. Request you to hold on. Ekta standing by to run us through what's the expected listing price and further details on that front. Ekta?
Thanks for that. Well, yes, Piramal Pharma, the entity, has 3 verticals. The contract development and manufacturing, or the CDMO arm, which is majority of the business, entails drug discovery, development and commercial manufacturing. The other 2 verticals are complex hospital generics, which contains inhalation, anesthesia and injectables, and the India consumer healthcare arm, which houses brands such as Saradon, Lactocalamine and iPill. Now, a few key points to keep in mind. The company has a strong regulatory track record. It has completed a total of 280 regulatory inspections, with 36 US FDA inspections which have gone off successfully. Piramal Pharma gets around 41% of its sales from North America. Piramal also has a strong presence in the anesthesia market, a business which is categorized by lower competition and higher barriers of entry, while growth of the company's OTC arm is also keenly watched, as it grew 48% year-on-year in FY22. A few factors to watch out for. A pickup in the CDMO business, which has been impacted by execution-related challenges, and while the company withheld FY23 guidance due to volatility and their ability to meet long-term guidance and re-entering the domestic formulation space, growth drivers include factors such as addressing those execution challenges in the short term and a recovery in the second half, and the possible China +1 factor in a larger and longer-term perspective. Now, the market cap of the pharma entity is expected to be anywhere between 24 to 25,000 crores, which is a premium to the 18,000 crore valuation it had been given in 2020, when Carlyle bought around 20% stake for 3,700 crores, which was one of the largest PE deals in the pharma space. In terms of listing price, Axis Cap had in their note at the time of the ex-date indicated that the post-demerger value is around 190 rupees for Piramal Pharma, with an equity value of around 22,700 crores. CLSA expects the share value at around 206 rupees per share, with a price-to-book value of around 0.8 times. This note too came out a couple of months ago when the demerger took place.
Okay, all right, Ekta, we'll wait by then for that listing tomorrow. That will be a stock to focus on tomorrow. But Gurmeet, in the last few minutes, we have Polycab that came out with a set of numbers. And those numbers look pretty good, actually. Just the stock has spiked up as well. Did you briefly have a chance to look at it? And any view on the stock?
Yeah. First glimpse, Nigel, remains a portfolio stock for us. I think the cable and wire business, they continue to consolidate their leadership position. Almost 23% market share. I think that's linked to how the overall home improvement theme. Fast moving electrical goods is what their focus has been in the last 4-5 years. So while the top line has been growing very steady, it's been a little soft quarter. But if you see the product mix now, they are now, because it's a diverse product mix, a ceiling fan would have different margin, switches would have different margin, and appliances would have different margins. So I think that portfolio is taking shape. But if you see, it's been a 30-35% growth, and currently it's only 10-15% of the revenue mix, but continues to improve. Also, I think the from a B2C focus, adding more distribution SKUs, they're actually a little bit going the Havells way in terms of deviating only from just B2B business focus business to B2C, generates great cash flows. Very, very good balance sheet and financials. And they have a clear strategy, Nigel, FY26, that's 20,000 crores of top line, which typically means you're talking of 15-18% top line growth for next 4 years. And with return ratios like this, I think remains a very, very good long-term pick.
Gurmeet, the Piramal listing, I don't know, the pharma business listing, I don't know if you have any thoughts on what would you want to do with it. That and a comment on Tata Elxsi, if you will. It's down another 7% today. Briefly, go on.
Sure. So Piramal, I think, is one of the better pharma bets, as even Ekta pointed out. I think they have a great compliance track record, and sometimes we forget that with now restriction easing, reopening happening, even the inspections will go up. If you see last 10 years, they've had like almost 34, 35 successful US FDA inspections, and they're completely across the value chain, from providing services from early stage drug discovery to pharma, biotech, etc., to forward integration in both in terms of APIs and formulations. It's across the value chain of a drug, and run pretty well. And since 1st September, I think both the businesses, which is the financial services with DHFL integration and pharma, should do well. So I'm looking at this closely, and we'll see how would want to see more quarterly updates. While Mr. Pramit did speak about 15% kind of a growth across verticals within sub verticals in pharma. So we'll see how it goes once we see a breakup of the numbers, and more disclosures coming in. Tata Elxsi, in my view, I think we forget that it also went up 5 times in last 12 months. It's that kind of a pick which will always be high beta. And after this correction, even today, still is 55 times, earnings. So you can't assign those kind of PE multiples in an environment where there are some clouds, right, in terms of deal. And, we are used to seeing 7-8% CC growth. Suddenly you see a quarter with 4%, 5% growth. Some dip in margin. But vertical wise, I think, I don't see much slowdown. ERD, in my view, is more long-term and structural. So maybe at some point of time, it may become a bit of a, I would not say value buy, but a reasonable buy.
All right. Thank you very much, Gurmeet, for that. In the ER&D space, in the IT pack, L&T Tech and KPIT, these are the other 2 players which cater to the ER&D segment, and they will be reporting numbers today post-market hours. So we will be tracking them very closely. Big fall seen in Tata Elxsi in the last 2 days. Stock was closer to 8,500 pre-numbers and now is down to 7,200. But let's talk about Aarti Industries. That's today's fall. Pull up a 2-day chart of our Tata Elxsi. But let's talk about Aarti Industries now. The stock will trade ex the pharma business tomorrow. My colleague Sonal is here with the details. Sonal.
Thanks a lot for that. Well, that's right. Aarti Industries, that stock will be in focus because tomorrow it'll trade ex of its pharmaceuticals business. But remember, pharma business was around 16% of company's FY22 revenues. And in terms of the absolute numbers, in FY22, the pharma business did revenues of 1,295 crore rupees with an EBIT of 220 crore rupees. That means margins came in at around 17%. Now, since this is the pharma business, and I was just looking at EV upon EBITDA, EV by EBITDA valuation of the pharma companies in the listed space, which is around 14 times, that values the pharma business of Aarti Industries at 3,290 crore rupees. So that is the broad valuation that we are looking at in terms of the pharmaceutical business. The current market capitalization of Aarti Industries is 27,336 crore rupees, which will trade ex of the pharmaceutical business that I just spoke about. Now, we spoke to the company last month itself when they spoke about the record date of this pharma split. They said that demerged entity will list by mid-December. That is when we'll talk about the listing price as well. And they are looking at 15 to 20% growth in revenues and profits in pharma segment. So they have strong outlook here, and tomorrow that stock will be in focus on the back of this news.
All right, Sonal, thank you very much for that. So those are, interesting new businesses getting listed separately, Piramal and Aarti. Look, put up BHEL if we can. Nimish had highlighted this sort of note from DAM Capital I think they were saying that BHEL from a week ago was a doubler. I think that was the note. Strong gains. Any interest at all, Gurmeet? BHEL? Any thoughts?
Not really, Prashant. You can, when you run a portfolio services, probably less is more.
Yeah.
So there are other names. They're not clearly infra or defense related as such, but there are other names which we track both in the EPC defense as well as the infra space.
Gurmeet, thank you very much. Great speaking with you. It's always a pleasure having you with us here on the program. Thank you for your time. Well, 145 points on the Nifty. We're at 17,458. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We're going to come back. Jay Bala is going to be with us. We'll talk levels, markets, global, both local with him. And our alpha manager of the day is Sonam Udasi of Tata Asset Management. That conversation a little later as well.
Wishing a very happy Diwali and a prosperous New Year's to watchers of CNBC-TV18.
Excuse me, what will you do with your first salary?
So I would like to present my first paycheck to my father.
I'll buy a laptop for my younger brother.
I will save some money and with the rest I'll get an AC for my dad's room.
I'm going to start a life insurance policy. I think it's very important for my family's security.
काश कोल्ड कॉफी होती है।
Baby, cold coffee.
50 सालों से आपके लिए कुछ नया सोचते आ रहे हैं। मिल्टन।
ख्याल है तुझे हर पल मेरा, the taste of India, दिल को मेरे सहारा है तेरा, the taste of India, साथ है तेरा, साथ हमेशा।
जब टीवी देख नहीं रही हो तो बंद कर दो ना।
आज पूरे दिन घर पे रहोगे?
हाँ।
तो अगर गाड़ी यूज नहीं कर रहे हो तो इंश्योरेंस बंद कर दो ना।
PolicyBazaar.com पर पे एज यू गो कार इंश्योरेंस। जब कार चले तो इंश्योरेंस ऑन रखो, वरना पॉज करो और 8,000 रुपए तक बचाओ।
नया टीवी, गिव मी रेड।
मिहिर और मीना की शादी होती है, मिहिर के बच्चों के बच्चे होते हैं।
बात अगर लंबे चलने की हो तो सिर्फ न्यू एवर रेडी अल्टीमा alkaline batteries with latest turbo lock technology that last up to 400% longer. New ever ready Ultima.
Welcome back. Lots of stocks to track as earnings flow through thick and fast. Gujarat Fluorochemicals is a stock on our radar. Very strong set of quarterly numbers. Sonal is here with the analysis. Hi Sonal, welcome back again.
Thank you for that, Reema. Well, yes, very strong set of numbers from Gujarat Fluorochemicals, and it is much better than what some analysts on the street was estimating. For instance, much better than ICICI Securities estimates as well. Revenues up 51% on a YOY basis at 1,461 crore rupees. EBITDA up 81% at 535 crore rupees. So they have crossed that 500 crore mark in terms of quarterly EBITDA. Margins came in at 36.6%, and that is where the biggest beat really came in from. ICICI Securities was expecting an EBITDA of 31.7%. Profits also, they are up 74% on a YY basis. Couple of reasons why this could have happened is because they had set up this new fluorochemicals, fluoropolymers capacity, which was going to come on stream from this quarter itself, and that is something which would have added on to volumes and realizations, and higher volumes in the PTFE segment is something that is expected to put in more profitability in the books of the companies. So waiting out for more details, but this could be the possible reasons why the results this time around for Gujarat Fluoro are really strong.
All right, super strong numbers. Sonal, thank you very much for that. Now, Jay Bala is with us of cashthechaos.com. Jay, good to have you with us here. So we seem to be in a nice uptrending sort of market. But I think we'll get confidence if the US does a little bit more, right? There is relative outperformance as is. So let's start with the US today. Do you think this bounce there will extend, or we'll get shocks like we have for the last few days?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Prashant. See, the bounce that we saw from the CPI print on Thursday, in my opinion, is just a temporary reprieve. And that temporary reprieve is just a question of how far does it go. And today's Globex session high that we are seeing, the Asian market session, it's coming off in a very important level of 37.70, the US S&P futures. And if it were to go above 38.46, this rally can continue, and that will be the deciding factor whether Nifty goes above the September high. But if today's the high that we have seen right now in the Asian market session, if that holds and the US futures goes below 37.10, 3700, I think there's a good probability that we are going back to the lows that we saw before the CPI print. So that's the theme I'm working with. I'm bearish on the US markets as long as it stays below 38.46. If it crosses 38.46, I will probably allow the counter trend move to last somewhere close to 40.50 to 4100. And then it's a question of turning bearish once again. So it's just a matter of where do we get turned bearish one more time, whether it's right now or just above 4,050 on the S&P futures.
All right. Hi, Jay. Good afternoon from here in India. Jay, 38.46, we like that on the S&P 500, but a lot of the market participants here will be, what's the view on the Nifty? Now, there are calls for at least maybe 17,700 to 17,800 before Diwali. So we've got just a couple of trading sessions to go. Are you in that camp? Where does Nifty run into resistance?
Yeah, Nifty has come into a very important resistance zone, Nigel. See, the zone of 17,550 to 17,680, so that's around the 7,700 mark that you spoke about. And it's a very important resistance zone. I think the markets are trying to, see some amount of, at least a pullback. I think if I lay out the bullish case too, the market pulls back one more time to 17,000 and then holds that, that'll be quite bullish. But even for a bullish case, I would say this, the movement from the 16,747 low that we saw looks pretty incomplete for me. I'm on the side, that thinks that the low that we saw in September is going to break, and we're going to see further lows for the markets. But if the Nifty were to exceed 17,800, I think we're going to see fresh swing highs, 52-week highs closer to the all-time highs for the markets.
We will go back to our all-time high levels. On the way down, what would be the level if we break down?
Yeah, I would say something like 16,400, and probably the focus will move back to the June lows. The important support right now, as I spelled out last week, 16,855. If that gets broken, the bullish options are exhausted. There are no alternate bullish cases for the market. As long as 16,855 is protected, there is bullish hopes for the markets.
Hey, all right, Jay, let's talk about a couple of stocks then. I believe you've got a long as well as a short call. And you're looking at NTPC as a short call. That's been a relatively stronger short. What's your take?
Yeah, that's right, Nigel. See, the auto sector has been one of the stronger ones, and it came very close to a very important support at 12,400, and then it's just managed to stay above that level. So if the auto sector is going to go up, continue to go up, I believe Escorts is going to do well, and it's a low risk entry point. Say 1,900 stop and potential for fresh 52-week highs close to 2,200. And the reason why I have a short on NTPC is a medium-term setup. The recent high that we saw around 176 looks like a completion of a move. And if it in a very short-term time frame, that is the intraday time frame, it's clocking a reversal. If it were to go below 155, the movement down will accelerate, and there is potential for it to go down somewhere close to 140 to 135.
On autos, what would the call be?
Yeah, if 12,400 on the auto sector is broken, I think the outperformance that we saw from March 2022, that has come to an end. It's already clocking, some exhaustion setups, but we need the support to get taken out. Until that point, people who are trying to book profits or turn bearish on it should not be in a hurry. Wait for the 12,400 levels that I've been speaking about for several weeks. Let that get taken out. Once that's get taken out, we can book profits or go short. But until that point, can be cautiously long. There is a relative strength in TVS Motors and M&M, but M&M is seeing some exhaustion. If it were to go below 1,200, which I've been reiterating for several weeks, I think that will also come in for profit booking.
Okay, all right. Jay, final question from my end then before we let you go. What's your take on crude oil prices? It was good to see that it didn't go to that $100 per barrel. It's cooled off around 92 from an emerging market perspective like India. We are very, very happy about that. And the dollar index as well has cooled off from around 114.5 to around 112. Trajectory on both those two?
Yeah, sure. I think, I don't know if it's bad news or good news, but as a trader, if I can find a setup, it's good news for me. So I think Brent is going much higher from here, but it may not take out the record highs that we saw in 2022. I think there is a corrective rally in the short term that's likely to play out, either with a touch of 90 on Brent or without a touch of 90 on Brent. Either way, it's going up somewhere close to 108 to 113. When it comes to the dollar index, there is a volatile move that's pending, either a print of 109.29 or slightly lower for the dollar index spot, not the futures, and then to fresh record highs for the year. And see, the USD JPY is trading at a 32-year high. So, and the next resistance comes somewhere close to 160. So the probability the dollar index is going much higher is quite high. But in the short term, the next high would be the final high. It'll do a bullish consolidation and pull back. After that, the medium-term trend will resume. But we can have a reprieve once the new high is made in the short term.
Jay, thank you very much for joining in. Let's also welcome Sonam Udasi, Senior Fund Manager at Tata Asset Management, on the show now. Sonam, afternoon, and thanks so much for joining in. What have you made of the earnings season so far? What were the key hits, the key misses for you, and the takeaways for FY23 and FY24?
So I think the result season is still on. So far, early trends suggest that banking sector is doing well. PPOP growth is starting to come back, so that's a relief. But yet have to see. Valuations are within long-term comfort zone, so that's also helping the sector really. Within consumer, slowly input cost pressures are abating, so that's something to watch out for this quarter. Not all results. We'll have the result season really peaking somewhere in the mid of this month, so we'll come to know there. But from an FY24 perspective, key thing would be, see, FY23 second half will be, the input cost pressures will abate, and therefore earnings will get more support, in my opinion. But I think FY24 we'll have to watch out for how the commodity again starts to behave. Geopolitical situation is still very dicey, if I may say so.
Okay, geopolitical situation is still a little dicey. Sonam, in your opinion, the PSU bank space is seeing a great degree of enthusiasm, excitement. Is it just a rotation from private banks into PSU? And we've seen that happen within sectors, intra-sectors. Is that what is going on here?
Quite possible, for the simple reason that there is a huge valuation discount within the PSUs and private sector. PSUs, I think, barring SBI and BOB, most of them are below book. in terms of pure valuations. So naturally, if the tailwind is looking good for the sector, then generally people tend to take on more risk. That being said, I think the sustainability of this will be, we'll come to know when the credit growth really picks up. If it becomes broad-based, then it will sustain and become stronger. Otherwise, it's just a sort of just a fad for some more time.
But I was just looking at your holding, Sonam, and I think you have mostly private sector banks. I can see ICICI in there, HDFC Bank in there. Do you all own any PSU banks as of now?
So we own SBI, and we also
will you look at adding the other names? Like, as you said, valuation-wise is looking rather attractive. So are you all giving it a thought? We'll have to track your fact sheet to check whether or not you'll get it the next time around. But as you said, you have SBI. I can see a lot of private sector banks in there. Do you believe that you would be giving them a look, given that some of them are still trading at very, very cheap valuations?
So as investment managers, we'll continue to debate and look at cycles. But interestingly, a lot of the smaller private sector banks were much cheaper even a month back, and some of them were at 1 or below 1 as well. So that gave us an opportunity to go there first. That was an easier call to take. The difficult call is therefore now: do you want to go and back, government sector banks, considering where interest rate scenario is? So as I said in my opening statement, if the credit cycle becomes stronger and more broader, then this space has more legs. And as investment managers, we'll have to look at more structurally positively for the entire sector. But for that, really, right now, what we are seeing in terms of credit growth is some bits of working capital inflation-led demand, some bit of breadth of demand that is picking up. Retail is doing quite well, but really capex led, we have yet to sort of see that for most banks. So we'll need to watch out for that. And PSUs operate very well on the corporate side. So that's where the call will become.
You own in the consumer fund. You own Metro Brands as well. Is that a recent addition, Sonam, or you owned it?
So I think we have been with part of that company since the IPO, and we have added post the IPO. And as you get more comfort and more data on how they are performing and how the quarter was, I think from that perspective we have just sort of added to that holding post the IPO.
It's a rocket. It's been a rocket for you since the IPO, right? In the consumer fund, single-handedly. One just only hopes you own enough of it.
So actually, sometimes owning, it's both a boon and a bane,
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter that space itself is doing quite well. The footwear segment is doing quite well. And data is pretty good. But I think, since you mentioned consumer, even some of the smaller QSR names have done quite better than the large ones. So I think within segments, things are, changing very, very fast. From our perspective, we are actually now more inclined to look at how is the input cost pressure going to be over the next quarter, over the next 2 quarters, and then take a call whether this then volume momentum will sustain or it's just, Diwali driven.
Any worrying signs of consumption, at least in the stocks that you hold, the companies that you talk to? Are you worried about consumption faltering?
So right now, nothing. Right now, most channel checks across the board are suggesting strength continuing, even as we speak. Be it autos, be it footwear, be it clothing, and you name it, even building products, sanitary ware, etc. The volume number, I think companies are quite gung-ho about. As investors, from a shorter term, we do understand some of it may be pent up. So I think the bigger question for investors would be how from where this will sustain from December onwards, and if that sustains even a little bit. Generally, I've seen in my experience that consumer sector generally is more secular, barring one or two quarters. It sort of tends to come back meaningfully. We are, after all, 130 billion janta, and we consume, and every quarter or 2 quarters, I think one or the other segments come back very, very strongly. So I think for us, really, where is the input cost pressure headed, and therefore it'll give more legs to the volume momentum.
Well, Sonam, final question from my end then. What about ITC? I'm looking at your flexi cap fund, and you have a large holding in there, close to 4.2% ITC. I don't know how many fund managers would have given it a good amount of allocation in the last 1 year or so. But what's your view on the stock right now? And have you all been adding on to this position, or is this a relatively older position?
So this is a very relatively older position. We have taken the brunt of it also. While it's outperformed, but we continue to be within this space. We continue to like this relatively, from an input cost, pressure point of view, from a volume momentum point of view, and valuations, of course, continue to be favorable.
Okay, Sonam, we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining in, and season's greetings to you and everyone at Tata Asset Management. Thank you very much for joining in. Get into a break. On the other side, we'll tell you what you can buy today that you can sell tomorrow. Calls coming in from our technical experts.
Wishing CNBC-TV18 and all of its viewers in India and overseas a very happy Diwali and a very prosperous New Year.
लो अब खाओ कद्दू इसके चक्कर में 2000 का चालान लग गया।
बाइक इंश्योरेंस रिन्यू करते तो नहीं लगता ना पापा।
इंश्योरेंस कितनी महंगी है पता है? मैं यहाँ पैसे बचाऊं, सस्ते कद्दू के चक्कर में 15 किलोमीटर दूर जाऊं।
2000 रुपए का सस्ता कद्दू।
बाइक इंश्योरेंस महंगी पड़ रही है। प्रीमियम स्टार्टिंग एट जस्ट ₹1.5 per day on phone पे। टेंशन फ्री इंश्योरेंस।
There's more of us in the squad today. There's a young one in the crew. There's a big boy in the gang. There's more color in the tribe. More styles in the wardrobe. We may look mean, but we're still the safest guys to be with. There's more punch, more legacy, more wow in us today. The original rock stars are rock stars still. But there's one thing we will be today and every day. New, now and forever. Tata Motors, new forever.
OLX ऑटोज ही देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस। सुनीता, सुना तुमने ये क्या बोल रहे हैं?
यही कि OLX ऑटोज देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस। ये प्राइस ही नहीं सरप्राइज है। विजिट olxautos.in।
उत्तर प्रदेश को ड्रग माफिया से मुक्त कराने के लिए योगी सरकार 2.0 और सख्त हो गई है। अपनी दूसरी पारी की शुरुआत में ही एंटी नारकोटिक्स टास्क फोर्स का गठन और प्रदेश में नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल थाने बनाने का निश्चय कर लिया गया है। विगत 6 माह में 40 करोड़ के नशीले पदार्थ जब्त हुए और 2310 ड्रग माफियाओं का सफाया हो चुका है।
जो कार्य है, जिस फील्ड में हम लोगों ने कार्य किया, आज उसका परिणाम है कि उत्तर प्रदेश की कानून व्यवस्था देश के लिए एक नजीर बनी हुई है।
यूपी में लॉ एंड ऑर्डर बहुत अच्छा है, पहले से बेटर है, क्योंकि कुछ भी होता है तो एक्शन बहुत फास्ट होता है।
अनुशासन से सुशासन की मिसाल बन चुकी है योगी सरकार।
Do we have to wait years for a cure?
Hey, Mommy, can we go make some pancakes?
Yeah, let's go. Or are we smarter than that?
Okay, I mean, it's almost as if the rates are pasted, on the tape today. 170 points, look at that, has been around there for most of the session. Should be the average the day, I mean, around this, 17,483, just under 10 points, 12 points short of the 50-day moving average. So not sort of bucking, but not sort of pulling higher either. Mitesh is with us with some BTST trading ideas. Mitesh, hi, over to you.
So, Prashant, have a BTST on granules and HAL. HAL is, I think, moved up very nicely in the last few minutes, last 2 hours rather. So that's a BTST with a stop at 24.60 for targets of 25.10. And the other one, as I mentioned, is granules. Granules, in fact, experiencing a good uptrend and is showing signs of continuation now. So BTST here with a stop at 353.5 for targets of 363.
Okay, all right, Mitesh, thanks for that. Well, let's talk about a couple of numbers then which we're expecting tomorrow. And let's start off with Ultratech Cement. And then, in fact, we'll go to Anand to ask him his view on the company. First up, in terms of a poll, well, we are expecting a top-line growth of close to 11 after around 12% odd. The EBITDA number is likely to take a hit of close to 33%. That would mean that margins will compress big time to around 13.5% odd from more than 22.5%. The profit number as well will come down sharply, should correct by close to around 45%. What are the factors at play? Well, I told you that there's expected a 12% growth on the top line. That's going to be driven by higher volumes. So on a standalone basis, that's the domestic operations. They should deliver volume growth of close to around 7 to around 8%, both for the consolidated entity as well as for the standalone entity. The poll that we threw up was for the consolidated entity. The remainder of the growth on the top line will come in because of higher realizations, close to around 3 to around 4%. The problem is in margins, because realizations on a sequential basis, they have corrected. Ultratech Cement has pan-India presence, so that's one factor that plays out. The second factor is that input costs will continue to remain elevated. Yes, they've corrected from the peak of May. The problem is that they'll be sitting on higher cost inventory, particularly petcoke, and bulk of the power and sales mix, fuel mix will be actually towards petcoke. So that's why that will hurt them as well. Also keep an eye out on the other income because their cash gradually has been reduced as they're using this cash to expand capacity. So that will be another factor at play. And also we'll keep an eye out on the updated debt number. The management commentary is going to be most crucial. Remember, in the last 1 year, Ultratech Cement has corrected by close to 25%. We have a few of their cement peers that have already disappointed. So expectations are not going to be very high, but if they can deliver a positive surprise, it'll put to rest the problems with regard to another player coming in there or the larger players trying to get larger as well. Ultratech Cement, well, it's going to be a very, very important set of numbers. Normally comes at midday tomorrow. The street is not having very high expectation, but let's see what they deliver. Anand Tandem is standing by. Hi, Anand. Good afternoon. Well, we had Shree Cement that delivered disappointing numbers on the weekend, and one thought those are disappointing. Then we had to look at ACCA. Only 20-30 rupees of EBITDA per ton number is what you got. And even Heidelberg Cement didn't deliver a great set of numbers. The good part is everyone's looking at a better second half of the year. How would you approach this space? And if you're getting Ultratech Cement 25% low in comparison to a year ago, will that be your bet?
Well, you are getting into the high season now for cement. We've just had a monsoon which has got over. Of course, it's been extended in some parts of the country, but despite that, this is now the time when construction activity would pick up. So seasonally, it is a good time. And therefore, the next 2 quarters are likely to deliver better results. So if you're looking for better realizations and perhaps to some extent better margins, given the fact that the costs have also been coming down, you would expect that the second half would be better in general. But that said, I think, from a cycle point of view, cement is not that very well placed. We've discussed this already earlier, that you have a new player who's a lot more aggressive, but also because of the fact that Shree Cement has a change at the managing director level, you are likely to see some aggression coming in there as well. So you are going to see a more competitive scenario. The demand may be a little higher, but I don't think that the capex cycle, it shows some signs of sputtering. And if that were to become the more dominant feature, then that would be a problem as well. So from a valuation perspective, I think it still remains a little toppish despite the kind of correction that you mentioned.
That's the call coming in on cement. Anand is not a big fan. Anand, what about Zee Entertainment? The decks are all getting cleared for the merger with Zee and Sony. And everyone, all the analysts we've spoken to say that there are great synergies to be realized post the merger, sports, OTT, etc. But the stock has struggled. And there is that big worry about the future of broadcast in a way. How would you approach Zee Entertainment? And is that a stock that you like?
Well, I think there is a greater chance that you're likely to make good money on Zee compared to many other sectors, largely because the fact, as you mentioned, there is no question there is great synergy. But when I'm saying synergy, it's not so much about reduction in cost, but the kind of complementarity that exists in the product bouquets, whether it is the fact that Sony has a better sports presence, or the fact that Zee has many more regional channels which are leaders in their field. Overall, the kind of presence that they will be able to offer to any advertiser makes them a very powerful entity to deal with. And again, the fact that CCI is having to take a view on the merger itself tells you the kind of market clout they will have. Now the question remains whether or not the overall cost of production goes up, because that's one of the problems that many of the professionally run companies face. But I think that overall, in the grand scheme of things, despite OTT, despite the fact that there is fragmentation in the media industry, a dominant player like Zee Sony merged entity is likely to do well. I can't see too many scenarios where they are going to suffer.
It's a pretty good day for broader markets as well. We've been focused on the index, but the breadth of the move is quite amazing. BHEL we've spoken about. Canara Bank is up 5.5%. It is the top gainer in the PSU bank space. There is Data Patterns, which is up 9.5%. Electronics Mart, the recent listing from yesterday, that is up 10%. It's limit up, by the way. Gujarat Alkali is up 6%. By the way, all of these got huge volumes. Even a dud like NHPC, I think there was a CLSA note a few weeks ago, that is up 7.5%. It's a hydro power generator. Karur Vaisya is basically coming back above 90 levels. I'm not mentioning PSU banks, but there are a lot. Jayaprakash Associates is up 10. It's limit up 10% in trade. J&K Bank, DCW, Midhani, and all of them decent sized volumes. Phoenix Limited is another one, the sort of mall player, 6% higher at about 14.27. So it's a pretty broad-based move with lots and lots of action across the board. Any thoughts, Anand, on the PSU bank space? I think I know where you stand in the space, but let me put that in any case to you. 7.5% on the index, by the way, 2 days, second day running now.
Well, before I come to that, I would like to react to the dud that you mentioned of NHPC, since that happens to be one of my more favored investments at this stage.
Oh, no.
No. The reality is that, the kind of growth that you are likely to see over the next 5 to 10 years in this space, I don't think is being factored in yet. You are looking at a couple of very large projects coming on stream over the next couple of years. Don't forget, there is now a huge premium on renewable energy, and this is one of the most stable forms of energy. And within that space itself, there was an earlier problem of trying to have land acquisition. Today, from what I understand, the situation is such that some of the northeastern areas, many of their premier projects, the people are asking for their houses to be drowned because the compensation levels are so high. So overall, I think I'd be very surprised if you don't see over the decade or so the capacity actually doubling almost. And with the kind of utility it is, if without adding any value for the fact that it is renewable, it's not trading very expensive. So I think you will get serious growth from here on. Coming back to your PSU banks, I have mentioned that always in the past. For now they are in the NPA accumulation phase. In other words, they are at a stage where they've just cleaned up their balance sheet and they are now going to have to lend. Credit growth has picked up big time, and many of them do have therefore balance sheets which are able to extend. We are still in a interest rate rising cycle, which will help the NII coming through. So net for all banks, it's going to do well. Only caution I think one should exercise at this stage is to see whether they also have reasonable deposit franchises, because with the kind of difference between the credit and deposit growths, you will very soon need to have the ability to raise cheap deposit funds, and that can be an issue. Nothing to do with PSUs. I don't know how many people have actually seen the fact that RBI has put out a concept note on e-currencies. Of course, for now it is not likely to have any major impact, and also they're going to go slowly. But potentially that has the ability to disrupt banking as a whole. But that's for a very long term kind of time.
Okay, all right, Anand, stay with us. Let's hop across to Abhishek. He's joining in to run us through what do we expect from IndusInd Bank. Abhishek?
Well, Nigel, Street is anticipating the highest NII growth that you are seeing in last 10 quarters. We already have the business update over there. The deposit growth was pretty strong, one of the best in last 5 quarters, and loan growth was the best in last 4 quarters. So calculation shows that, CD ratio might have improved on a sequential basis. However, CASA ratio is down on a sequential basis. So retail deposit is also up about 4.7% quarter on quarter. The key things to watch will be that the net interest margin will expand on a sequential basis as per CLSA estimates, and CLSA also expects core operating profit growth of 19% YOY and about 4% sequentially. Slippages of formation of bad loans as per CLSA is around 1900 crores. Remember that in previous quarter it was around 2250 odd crores. So commentary with respect to credit cost and loan growth will be seen very closely, and performance of MFI book will be seen closely. Our poll suggests NII growth of 17% YOY and close to 4% sequentially. We are working with a profit growth of more than 48% YOY and about 4.3% sequentially. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. IndusInd Bank tomorrow, Axis Bank on Thursday, ICICI Bank on Saturday. We're going to get a flurry of banking earnings. By the way, Tatacom is a stock which is surged to the high point of the day, post its numbers. Pretty decent set of numbers. It's reported a couple of sluggish quarters, but now things seem to be picking up on the data side. So Tatacom has moved up close to about 4%, and Gujarat Fluoro, strong numbers, but the stock is seeing some profit taking. Get into a break. We'll come back with more on the markets. Just 5 minutes to close this trade.
My journey of insurance and investments began at the same time, when I invested in LIC SEEP. In this fast-moving world, SEEP can balance your funds with security and growth. SEEP will take care of the ups and downs of the market and will give you fruitful results so that you enjoy the ride. And when SEEP is with you, you can soar high!
LIC's unit-linked insurance plan SEEP offers savings and protection so that you can soar high in your life. LIC, har pal aapke saath.
This festival, bring in Nissan Magnite. Big on dreams. Bold in passion. Beautiful in every drive. Rush to the nearest Nissan dealership now.
We care for your best interest. Presenting the Canara Bank Special Deposit Scheme. Now offering 7.5% per annum for 666 days. Apply online or visit our nearest branch now. Canara Bank. Together we can.
OLX Autos ही देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस।
क्या बात कर रहे हो? यही कि OLX Autos ही देता है आपकी कार का बेस्ट प्राइस। ये प्राइस नहीं, सरप्राइज है। Visit olxautos.in.
To be or not to be? Cut. To be. क्या हो रहा है यार ये? एक्टर से कट पुतला बना दिया है। अबे कट करना ही है तो अपनी लाइट से ये पुरानी लाइट्स कट करो। मतलब जिसका LED लगाइए और अपने पावर बिल्स को और एनवायरमेंटल डैमेज को भी कहिए कट। That is the question. Cut. Cisca LED, light years ahead.
Cisca. Hurry.
Will snow days be a thing of the past? Or are we smarter than that?
Happiness is getting home solid wood furniture this Diwali from Insaraf.com, India's #1 solid wood furniture store.
Okay, just 2 minutes to go for close. Anand, we'll say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining us. I take back that dud word. you make big money buying duds, Anand, and waiting it out. It's happened before. Thank you very much for joining us, though.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. All right, 176 points on the Nifty. We are at 17,490. So, it's going to basically leave us exactly at the 50-day simple moving average, testing that, but not really crossing that. It crossed it, of course. I mean, we took out 17,500 earlier in the day, but under it now. PSU Bank space, 8% rally in the last two trading sessions, and that's basically where the bulk of the action was. So State Bank of India, top Nifty gainer, Adani Ports, Eicher Motors, Nestle, ITC, and you had a little bit of help coming in from Reliance as well, which doesn't close the day's high, but up strong for the second straight session. Broader markets, Rima.
Well, all of our financials there as well. So Karur Vysya Bank up 9%, JNK Bank, DCB Bank, PNB, Canara, Union Bank, across the board. Stocks are up between 5 and 10% Electronics Mart has been locked in an upper circuit of close to about 10% Polycab post numbers, Tata.com post numbers, Z Entertainment rallied close to about 3% by the close of trade, and LT Technology was quite active and saw some buying ahead of numbers. On the losing side, weakness in PSP Project, dismal set of earnings, Tata Elxsi down for the second day in a row, and cuts coming through in Madison Sumi as well as Maharashtra Seamless, Nigel.
That's right, Rima, but it was a very, very good trading session for select stocks. And today, in that sense, will be a better session than yesterday. And I say that is because we had a gap up and we sustained that gap. The second factor is the mid-cap index came back to the party today. The mid-cap index, in fact, was a relative outperformer in today's trading session. It outdid what the Nifty had to do. And even the small-cap index, while it played some role, was up close to 0.8%. The number of stocks advancing were way more than the number of stocks declining. So close to 2 stocks advancing for 1 stock that was declining. And the bulls, well, they'll feel good that we ended at around the 50 DMA on the Nifty. Well, we'll wrap up on this edition of Closing Bell, but you stay with us because Commodity Champions comes up next.